Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Money Moves. I plan to do this every Sunday to keep track of where I'm putting my money. If you watched my last episode, you'll know that I moved a significant amount of money over to short-term government bonds, and that was executed on June 8th. I did the same thing in my higher yield savings account as well. And based on that data, you can see here, I got pretty lucky. So on the morning of the 8th, the price was around $3,200 for SPY. And then over the course of this week, it went down pretty dramatically and then actually ended up dipping below 3,000 for the S&P 500. Went up a little bit, so I did offload some of those shares, and I'll talk about that further in the video. As always, there will be some jelly at the end, which is something I enjoyed outside of the markets. If you have big dreams like buying the Aston Martin DB5 from James Bond, or if you're just getting started on your financial journey, definitely like and subscribe. This model is the 1964 version that was featured in Goldfinger. Although most of these are currently in museums, the current going price is $450,000. To keep your dreams at the front of your mind, like and subscribe. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. Before we get into all the money stuff, I want to talk about the fact that McDonald's has stopped serving breakfast all day. And I want to start out by saying I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. It says here that McDonald's sales were down 5% in May from a year ago, and that this is overall pretty good considering how many people are staying at home right now. Next, it says that breakfast is accounting for more than half of the decline in sales, and that lunch and dinner are relatively flat. I'm not sure what about this is surprising. Obviously, everyone is staying home and they're just making breakfast at home. I guess the discontinuity between lunch and breakfast is a little bit weird. So it says here that breakfast is a habitual thing and that once you break the habit of going out for breakfast, like coffee and a sausage egg McMuffin, then it takes a little bit of time to get back into that habit. Overall, breakfast places have not done very well, and Domino's has far outperformed them, and Starbucks and Dunkin' are underperforming McDonald's. Of course, this makes obvious sense when you think about the fact that Domino's delivers to the house and that they implemented a no-touch policy. So they can come to the house, they just put it on the step, you pay over the phone or on the app, and you never have to see or touch anyone. So essentially, a lot of Domino's business was untouched by the cough situation. So the first thing I want to talk about in this episode is my high yield savings account. I use CIT Bank for my high yield savings account, and they've continued to drop the interest rate, and that has caused me to reevaluate the amount of money that I want to have in this account. You can see here I received an annual rate of 1.35% last month. The month or two before that, I believe it was 1.55%, and it's continued to go down as the Federal Reserve continues to lower rates. And then the current going rate is 1.14%. So at this point, this account is generating very little income, and short-term treasury bills from Vanguard are currently yielding 1.92%. So that's not quite double the percentage, but it's definitely something that I'm considering moving to. Moving on to Worthy Bonds, I did add some money to my Worthy Pure Capital 2 account. And there's only 2 accounts here because they did run out of bonds to sell in the first account. They can only sell $50 million worth of bonds in each account. So once that $50 million has been exhausted, then they have to move over to a new capital account. And that's what they did here. So if you want to buy new Worthy bonds, then you would have to buy them in Worthy Pure 2. So for me this week, I added $200 to this account. And you can see here the transaction is still pending because I did put it in, I think in the middle of the week, but it should clear early next week. Going back to my larger account, you can see every single day I earn $1.48. And if you look at the 10,000th place, it does tick up every single day. And that's because this income compounds daily. Currently, my year-to-date is just over $250. If you're interested in bonds that help American businesses and also yield 5% annually, with the benefit of being fully liquid, there is a link in the description for a free bond when you open your account. Moving on to Fundrise, I did deposit $350 into this account this week, and you can see that annotated here. The transaction is still pending, so again, this one will clear probably early next week. You can see here all the different funds that they have isolated for different projects. They also do the funds by region and time period. So that way you can always take new investors and you don't take away from the returns of other investors. And with that new investment, that will put me over $19,000 with this platform. They did add a new project to my portfolio. They also released a new investor update, which I will cover in detail once my dividend comes out. And since these dividends are paid quarterly, I expect it to be paid within the first 10 days of July. I'm still not quite on track for where I want this to be. You can see here my goal is to get this account to $750,000 by 2040. And right now it says I need $394 more this month to stay on track. Of course, I did put in the $350 that you saw earlier. So really I need about $44 more to stay on track with my goals. Again, if you're interested in this platform, there is a link in the description and they will waive your fees for the first 90 days of your account being open. Next up is Lending Club. This is my primary account and it is a regular taxable account and it continues to do well. It's averaging close to 9%, which is exceptionally good for Lending Club. Lending Club as a platform averages around 5%. So if you are beating 5%, then you are outperforming the average. I haven't really changed my strategy with Lending Club. However, I did add $200 to the platform this week. You can see here that these D quality loans are still throwing off my overall portfolio goals. So I need to own more of all A, B, and C loans to help balance out these D loans. But that probably won't happen for a while. Once these D loans get paid back or they default, one or the other, then I can rebalance my portfolio how I want it. Then we have my IRA account on Lending Club. This portfolio is very young, so that's why it's averaging over 25% right now. I'm sure that there will be more defaults in the future, but I continue to reinvest and we'll see where it goes. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. So my retire account did go up in value only because of deposits. The market actually did go down a little bit, but I didn't go down quite as much as the rest of the market because I did move over some money to those short-term treasuries that I mentioned before. You can see here I did move some money out of those treasuries this week. So I sold them here and then I bought some stocks with it here. And then I also deposited $1,000 into this account, which was enough to basically buy every stock in the portfolio. If you're curious to what stocks are in this portfolio, I will link the video in the description. Going down here the rest of the week, you can see all the different dividends that I received. Not huge dollar values because this portfolio is pretty new, but all of these dividends are being reinvested into this account. Moving over to my higher yield savings account. This account is still up quite a bit because I was adding to it pretty aggressively during the downturn. And then on the 8th of June, I did move some money over to those short-term treasuries. And similar to my other account, I did start moving them back over into the markets. Since there's less holdings in this account, you can see the last 2 weeks of activity. Here on June 8th, I sold quite a few of my holdings and I moved them over to bonds. And then on June 16th, I sold $1,000 worth of short-term treasuries. And then on the morning of the 17th, I reinvested all of that money. Plus on the 18th, I added $500 to this overall account. For next week, I will probably move a few $1,000s from my high yield savings account over to this account. And you can see the holdings here. I have a pretty large percentage of this in short-term government bonds. And most likely any money that I move from that account will go directly into short-term government bonds. I won't dictate it directly, so it will fill in some of the gaps if some of these other slices are underweight, but I will likely increase the overall weight of the short-term government bonds just to ensure that most of the money goes into that slice. If you have any questions on either of my M1 portfolios, definitely leave them in the comment section and I will answer them. Also, I have a few videos on both of these accounts in the description. So here's my overall breakdown for the week. If you go back to my last video, you'll see that my total is up a little bit as well as my net. Big changes here is that my cash value is down a little bit over $1,500 and I moved that money into stocks and bonds. My overall percentages here did not change and my goal is still to get stocks to at least 50% overall. As you can see here, my cash value is going down and my bond positions are going up as well as my stock positions, despite the market going down a little bit. Of course, this is a new series, so I just made this chart to help track from week to week, and this will build over time until it's time to retire. Of course, none of this is financial advice, and this is just how I track my own money. Consult your financial advisor before you make any decisions. And with that, let's get to the jelly. Today's Jilly is the world's most dangerous race. It's a race around the Isle of Man, which is close to Great Britain, and it's called the TT. This is another one of those videos where I really can't give it any justice. You're just going to have to watch what this looks like. It's absolutely terrifying.
It is absolutely just beyond your wildest dreams to think that you could come here and race a motorcycle.
The Isle of Man TT is like a religion. It's the oldest motorcycle race in the world. You can stand on the footpath and you could literally reach out and touch the riders going past at close to 200 miles an hour. The houses are passing you so quick, sometimes it feels like you're inside a video game. It's frightening. It's damn dangerous and it stresses me out.
This is the greatest motorsport event in the world.
It's about 200 kilometres an hour, straight at the front here, absolute lunacy. I want to find out what drives these riders to test themselves and their machines in a brutal event called the TT, Tourist Trophy.
There's a lot to get right and a lot that can go wrong, so it is part sprint race, part endurance race, and it's a time trial, so it's so unique.
Peter Brock used to say that great racetracks have got consequences. The Isle of Man TT is the ultimate road course. It's the fastest, wildest and most dangerous racetrack I've ever seen. And for the riders that compete here, there is absolutely no room for error. In its 104 years, 234 riders have died. It says on the back of your pass that motor racing is dangerous. This is dead set dangerous, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
So yeah, absolutely terrifying. If you want to watch the full video, I will link it in the description. And that's all I have to say about that. If you got any value out of this video, definitely like and subscribe and comment down below what you think of the TT.